Hi there, it's Kevin and the dogs and Talmadge with Rogue Deckbuilder. Thought I'd try to produce some content here. Don't worry guys, it's coming. There's gonna be a lot of videos for Tuesday Brews Day and some top 10 lists and all that jazz here. But we thought we'd finally get on our daily walk this afternoon to get content now. And what better channel than this to actually rant about something. So, Final Fantasy has been released and I'm kind of miffed by it. I actually don't really like the set after playing with it. So first of all, I think it's been a phenomenal release. The reception's been huge. It's been great for my store with people, cleaning me out of collectors, and just there's a lot of people that have been brought back into the game because of Final Fantasy. There's lots of people. It's undeniable. The universe, to be honest, is just a slam dunk. However, I am kind of a Magic purist when it comes to design and actually how the game works. And so this is another set that just makes me think that play boosters were an absolute mistake. And I felt it a little bit in some of the more recent sets. My main pet peeve with play boosters is the stupid list slot. I mean, I know it's not a list slot now, it's always the reprint slot. And how those used to be in set boosters, and so you didn't really have to get affected. I know some of the drafts that were on the kind of tail end of when they had sets and draft boosters did have those, like the Enchanted Tales and things like that screwed up the limited environment. But boy, oh boy, is the Final Fantasy set just plagued with that slot. And it kind of sucks because the whole point to playing in a limited environment like a pre-release is to experience new cards and experience new strategies. And I would say that about 90% of my games were defined by some bomb out of that slot. So what do they even call it, Talmadge? It's the Final Fantasy Through the Ages. So Final Fantasy Through the Ages. I cannot tell you how many games that I won or lost based upon having a bomb or getting a bomb played against me from that slot. So I don't know. We were playing what we call League, which is where at our store you take your pre-release pack from the pre-release, and instead of breaking it apart, you play in a league that's going to last all the way till Edge of Eternities, and each week you can add a pack. And every time you lose 3, you can buy a pack to add. And then it keeps things fairly competitive because the players that are, not as good have a larger card pool to play. And I got to go up against a Kenrith 2 games in a row that was just completely unbeatable. So of course, you say, okay, it's dice removal, sure. Like I said, though, it does require removal for that to happen before it just gets, insane value. And I was thinking about the loss before that, where I lost to Primeval Titan. And then I lost to Atraxa. And then I lost to, and it's not just that, it's like all these other little cards, like the Deadly Disputes and the Brainstorms and the Lightning Bolts. They are so strong compared to the rest of the field. And it's just making me think, like, when are they going to address play? Like, how do they bring back a limited environment and also sell packs? Because play boosters are already suffering compared to collectors and basically any sort of product. Like bundles sell better, pre-release kits, well, those have play boosters in them. Everything is selling better than play boosters. If you go back to like Aether Drift and Dustmorn, play boosters have been very dismal sales compared to everything else. And so how does Wizards go forward to balance this, where they can actually create like a limited environment where people can actually experience the new mechanics and still have incentivization to actually buy like the play in the draft? And it used to be, back in my day, the incentivization was the draft. That's why people actually purchased these. So like I don't know where they'd put it, if it needs to be in like box toppers or like some sort of box topper pack, or if they're just relegated to collector boosters, or again if they have to go back to set boosters. But man, oh man, I'm pretty much just done with play boosters with this dumb slot. And I believe in Final Fantasy it's 1 every 3 packs has one of these in there, so they're not uncommon whatsoever. So going across an Atraxa or a Primeval Titan, or a Kenrith, or what are some other ones that were, a Shram was actually pretty insane. Well, yeah, even the key cards like Diabolical Intent and Lightning Bolts and Brainstorms, the power level on those are just insane. Was there exploration in this? No, it was Farseek. But my biggest issue with that is that the power level of these cards, like these are cards that they haven't reprinted back into standard. That's why they put them in these slots. That's why they weren't in the set. It's because they didn't want them back in standard because the power level was too high. And you know, instead, you have to actually experience them in even a lower power level format, such as sealed or in draft. And so, yeah, it's going to be very interesting at the Pro Tour to see if this is going to happen at that level. Was it next week, I believe, is the Pro Tour, or 2 weeks? Yeah, and I believe they will be doing Final Fantasy Limited. It's going to be your typical standard and you have to draft. And so it'll be, I wonder how many times on camera it will be one of these, you know, Primeval Titan bombs that is going to be the defining moment for. And again, it just feels like there's less skill involved at that point. One of my other complaints though with it is like some of the cards, like SRAM for example, does work with the equipment, and you know, Primeval Titan works with landfall. Sure, there's some cool little nuances there that they do work with their mechanics, but like I said, it just overshadows. That's the best word that I can think of with this Through the Ages slot. It just overshadows every other card. But that's not the end of my rant. So my other problem with Final Fantasy, and I want to know in the comment section too if this is what your experience is, like I used to do a video series called the top 10 cards that I want to brew with out of a new set. And typically I have no problem finding 20 cards. If we actually go back to Tarkir, I could have easily made a list of, you know, 20, 30 cards that I think would have a lot of fun potential to brew with. And Final Fantasy, holy boring. Like the whole set just seems incredibly boring as far as like it's either commander cards that are absolutely unplayable. So a lot of 5 and 6 drop cards, it's like there's no chance that this is going to be able to have any sort of function in standard. I apologize for the wind if it's super windy here. Typically this walk is nice and calm, but there's usually what was I saying, that like these cards, these 5 and 6 drops bombs, they're never going to be able to be relevant in standard with we're in like a turn 4 standard format, or you have these, you know, omniscience decks that win on turn 4, turn 5, like these these reanimator decks, those types of styles. So any sort of value synergistic 6 drop is just unplayable. So it's hard for me to even like pick these cards, and they're actually quite underwhelming. I'm thinking about the guy that discard your hand and draw cards for 6 mana. You can flip a lot of those flip cards, and they seem kind of cool. And in the past, maybe I would pick them if we weren't under like a power level that is crazy like we have in standard. And so the cards that do have a chance of seeing play were just so done boring. So you have like functional reprints of like Stoneforge Mystic in the form of Cloud. I mean, that's not a brew card. You had just a lot like Dark Confident, you know, good stuff type cards that didn't seem like they were synergistic. And it's actually quite rough for me to, you know, actually pick a top 10 list. And so it is kind of just, it's kind of sad that this is where a lot of people's experiences going into Magic is going to be Final Fantasy, which again, I think was a knockout of the park as far as thematic, and it did have some nice designs. And it'd be actually a lot more interesting if we had like a less powerful standard format where some of these 5 and 6 drops had a chance in hell of ever seeing play, you know, outside of Commander. And to be honest, a lot of them also seem quite lackluster in Commander. There's already cards that I mean, that's the problem with Magic right now, is it's becoming very redundant and samey. I mean, how many times can you reprint a card that has a wheel effect or an aristocrat? Yeah, aristocrat effect and whatnot, and it just be so samey. And that's one of the major problems with Commanders now, is it's definitely no longer a singleton format. So now we have another aristocrat. We got 2 of them with Sephiroth and the other Blood Artists 3. So it's like, geez, these 100 card singleton decks are definitely not singletons anymore. They're just, you know, renamed, you know, version of another card. It might be slightly off.
I mean, we saw that in making like the Commander top 10 list. It was just like all of them had so many of the same card. You had to like pick a very unique card that you thought would go up.
Yeah. It's just, so again, that's kind of my issue with this particular set. It's just like I really wish there was some sort of like block, or as I mentioned with limited, it's rough. Like usually our leagues are really fun. What I love to brag about leagues is you get to experience all the mechanics from the new sets and really, you know, flesh them out over a time. So maybe your sealed or your draft didn't get to experience, you you know, a certain mechanic or a certain card you pulled, and you're like, oh, what if I would have pulled this card with it? And eventually, you know, that'll be answered in league because you'll get enough packs to do it with. But what we're seeing right now in our league is bombs are defining everything. And most of the time, over 50%, those bombs aren't even from Final Fantasy. They're from that reprint slot that is just taking over games and, you know, leading to these weird scenarios. So again, I want to know everyone else if like I know I'm known for my like brews here on this channel, and really not known for anything lately because I don't produce content here. You know, that used to be my kind of my gig. But I'm a limited player. Like that's where I got my start, was by doing limited. I almost felt like I was forced into the brewing because, you know, there's so many more events and tournaments that were constructed and not very many unlimited. But I love limited. Like if I were to only pick one format that I could ever, if I had to, you know, quit everything about Magic and only play one format, it would be draft. And I'm just so underwhelmed by Final Fantasy right now for the limited experience. And I don't really think that had to be. I think that if they didn't have that slot and had a little less bomby, and I guess it's really the removal sucks too. Is that really the issue, Talmadge? I don't know.
I don't know, like overkill.
I guess overkill's okay. I don't know. It just feels like every time I've had sealed or limited, I just can't get enough, you know, relevant removal.
I feel like there's a lot in black.
Or you have to burn it early, and then someone, you know, you get those 6 mana, you know, bombs that just take over. And there's just, you know, so many cards that just have just sheer value that removal, even 1-for-1 removal, isn't like the key. And yeah. So anyway, it'll be interesting. We'll call it now, of how many times like Atraxa we'll see, you know, camera, oh, you know, it's Sephiroth. But yeah, like I said, it's kind of a feel bad, because this is what like master sets are for. Master sets were like supposed to be pairing a lot of cards that had these synergies together. And in the past, I think they've done some of these slots better too, like Strixhaven Archives. I know had some pretty wonky, busted cards. And we've already gone through this before, and maybe I'm just, you know, a boomer at this point, just not accepting that this is, you know, a new little aspect of draft. But this set just felt different. It really felt that it was defining, that all these cards from the Through the Ages were it was really the Through the Ages set with some Final Fantasy cards. It wasn't the other way around with, like, you know, someone randomly getting a channel that miraculously worked with some other card. It was like, nope, Primeval Titan, Kenrith, SRAM. All these cards just got insane value and just took over. The Smuggler's Copter, that's one that I pulled, and like every game I had a Smuggler's Copter, I was just so far ahead. So it was impossible for my opponents to really, you know, come back from that. Of course, like, you know, burning a removal spell early on a 2-drop, and that was the whole problem with Smuggler's Copter in like when it was banned out of Pioneer and Standard at one point, was just the value engine. You take that in limited, it makes all of your cards just so good by crewing a, you know, a Copter. But yeah, in comment section below, I definitely like to hear your opinions on what you experienced with the, you know, the limited, if you're still playing limited. And again, we're going to keep our eye on that Pro Tour to see how that is going to affect kind of the limited environment too. So anyway, again, like I said, we'll get back to, I'll probably have a top 10 video published today or tomorrow for cards I want to brew with. There are still some interesting ones for sure. We got some good brews in the making. Still having fun with Magic, and like, it's a good sign I'm actually ranting again, because when I'm not ranting, that means I'm done. It's even a worse scenario than when I am ranting. So you'll get my rants, and I'm sure there'll be lots to complain about. So as always, thanks for sticking around, and thanks for watching.